let's move on to another part of this topic that is equally as important, and that is fabric and motion. When drawing clothes, whether static or in motion, it's always important to consider the form beneath it. So for example, let's do something like this. Take a basic cylinder, for example, and let's say, which can be a little silly, let's say this cylinder is moving at 100 miles per hour, and then a cloth that bumps into something, maybe a clothesline or something, and one of the cloths get caught on it. So it's moving this way. We'll put some speed lines around it. And let's say a cloth gets caught on it. It's moving this way upwards, and then it hits it. What's going to happen is that cloth is going to fold around the cylinder. And this is important because it takes the shape of the cylinder. The cloth doesn't stay straight the entire way through. It conforms to the cylinder. And since there's tension right on the very edges of on the body of the cylinder, I should say, there's no wrinkles, but once on the off sides and the back sides, on the far sides of the cylinder, the wrinkles start to appear. All of this is stuff we learned a few moments earlier. So now the wrinkles are starting to appear on that. And occasionally, depending on how much tension, as we saw on the top model from before, the wrinkles, the cloth might just take the shape of the object that it's covering. Whatever's beneath will conform and be restricted to what it's covering. That's also important to remember. Into the sense you can see. Like that. The cloth has some thickness, it isn't super thin. If it was, it would cling a lot closer to the body of the cylinder. That's another thing to remember. The type of fabric you have, as I mentioned earlier, again, it's very repetitive, but as I mentioned earlier, always be mindful of the type of fabric you're drawing. So this cloth is a bit thicker than this cotton, maybe. So it stands, as you can see, the line between the cylinder and the cotton itself is quite thick. And if we were to erase that, it would just look like that. We can still see that the cloth is wrapped around the cylinder, but now it looks a bit thicker, it has a bit more depth, and it has a bit more form. Now what about cloths and fabrics that aren't clinging to anything, you might be asking? And that one is a little more, you have a little more freedom. Let's see if I can come up with an example here. Okay, let's take this for example. This is a bit like the last one, but still there's a bit more freedom, as I said. So for this one, you're just gonna have to use your own eye, your own feelings, take what you learned, and then apply it to this. Let's say this guy's wearing the cape, he's a superhero, he's flying. The cape is tucked right into the neckline. So the wrinkles are all going to come from there. Like a stage curtain from our very first example. The closer it is to the thing, to the edges pinching it, you'll remember that from here. It's going to fold like that. It's very close to where it's to its root. The wrinkles closer to the root are going to fold like curtains, and the farther away it gets from that, it's going to begin to do its own thing. Can have it just fold straight down to that point. And that is a very nice cape for this fellow. Now let's say the cape is moving in another direction. We're still talking about fabric in motion. Let's say the cape is flying backward. It's okay to draw the cape bypassing or showing through your figure as long as you erase the line, unless you want to keep it. So this one's going to fold. The thing about cloth in motion when it's not so strictly attached, as I said, is you have a lot of freedom. And there really is no wrong way to do it as long as you keep the essentials in mind. So we're going to do it like this. And because the cape's twisting so much, the stage curtain hang isn't going to happen so much here. Instead, the cape is going to fold. Now, if we could see the opposite side of it, you'd probably see it hanging like that. But from this angle, it's all straight lines. Now, why don't we show this from the back? Let's do that right here. I may do a tutorial on back muscles in the future. Those are actually extremely simple. Okay, now let's work on this guy's cape. This is the back, although if we erase these muscles, this could be the front, but we'll say it's the back. The wrinkles are coming from right up here, the neckline, and the cape is coming towards us. If you know anything about perspective, you will know that the lines of our object will spread out as they come closer to the camera. When you're drawing fabrics and stuff, always memorize that there are two sides to your fabric itself. We call this real life three-dimensional, so there's more than one side to it. So if I were to draw this in like so, what you definitely don't want to do is just leave your fabrics all looking very one-sided. It's like when you throw a bed sheet up into the air, it folds and it wrinkles. You can see usually both sides of it as it moves. all the motion. You can see all the form, all the dimensions of the cloth, in this instance a cape, now that we've fully rendered it and corrected it. And I think that just about concludes the tutorial for today. Let me know if I didn't get anything, or if I glossed over anything too quickly. Again, I might do a tutorial on how to render, and that just means how to finalize certain fabrics. You can take this, we could actually take something like this and make it leather. That's basically what rendering is. It's how your drawings, the texture of them. Rendering is just texture. So I might do a tutorial on that, but hopefully this covers the basics of how to draw and render wrinkles on different fabrics. So in review, the key to drawing wrinkles on anything is just gravity and tension. Once you understand those key principles, you'll be able to draw and render any kind of fabric, any kind of material that you want on any kind of surface, object, person, subject. I don't have any recommended reading this time, but I would just recommend that you observe your own clothes, your own body, fabrics, different kinds of materials around you, and see how those wrinkle and fold. That's actually how I learned. It's the best way to do it. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share to this channel and this video. Make sure you check out my Facebook page, my DeviantArt page, my Tumblr page. I'll have all the links in the description below. Definitely leave comments and suggestions for me in the comment box below, and I will try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.